There is going to be a piece of AI that's going to take jobs. There's going to be job creation, job destruction. And this is why I continue to believe the HR leaders need to be the captains of this transformation. Then the question is, okay, what is left? Humans and machines are the equation.
You're listening to HR Superstars, a podcast brought to you by 15Five. On this show, we talk to strategic people leaders who are making a meaningful impact in their organizations and shaping the future of work. So get ready to be inspired and discover the secrets behind building high-performing teams and fostering a culture of growth and thriving. The future of HR starts here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm Karina Young, our VP of People here at 15Five. I'm really excited to be joined by two guests today. It's really a special treat for me because we get to explore one of the most exciting and honestly just intimidating shifts that's happening in our field right now, which is the rise of AI in HR. And like many of you, I did not start my career with a technical background, right? Like I got thrown into doing many technical things and built my comfort up over time, but I didn't join HR so that I could be a tech expert. But I've spent over a decade now in HR, in leadership, scaling teams, building people-first cultures, and tech just becomes more and more a part of what we do. And I've seen how easy it is for all of us as leaders to feel sidelined when those technologies emerge. And there was a real time in the HR world when that was normal, where tech and HR weren't really coming and joining together. But AI is everywhere and actually such a big strategic force within the HR world. We really need to be leaning into it, finding our confidence, our voice, our skill, and utilizing it to our benefit and to help our companies as well. But I think the fear is very real, right? What if we can't keep up? What if others who speak the language of AI take the lead in shaping how it's used in our orgs and not us? What do we do? How do we balance that? But here's the truth behind all of that fear and all of that wonder is that nobody understands the full fabric of a company the way HR does. We see across teams, we influence culture, and we drive strategy through people. And AI doesn't change any of that. It amplifies it. It gives us tools to work smarter, to move faster, and to make a bigger impact. It is our ally, not our enemy. And today I'm joined by two people who have navigated this shift beautifully and are really helping others take the first steps with AI. Please help me welcome Anthony Onesto, one of our 15Fivers here, and Theresa Fesinstine, also joining us today. Really happy to have both of you here. I want to hand it over to Theresa first. Theresa, give me what I like to call the movie trailer intro to yourself and your career journey.
So the movie trailer version of me, I have spent over 25 years. I know, hard to believe, but 25 years in the world of HR. I started back in 1998 in learning and development, transitioned into a role as a generalist, in essence, so that I could actually stay in the apartment that I was paying in New York City for, and really thrived in that world. I love organizational design. I love change management. I love the fact, and you mentioned it yourself, Karina, I've said this a ton of times, nobody in a business understands the business and the organization and the people the way HR does. We have to understand what's happening with every function. And back just speeding things up in 2022, after quite a heavy hit of burnout through COVID, I'd already wanted to do my own business. So I decided that was the right time to do it. At the end of 2022, so about 5 days after ChatGPT launched, I had a great friend that was like, hey, have you tried this before? I jumped in and tried. And I always say now that it sort of became my entry drug of choice. I become quickly addicted and spent 2023 honing my own learning through MIT certifications and traveling to Luxembourg for academic summer schools. 2024 was really the key point when I started to see more and more HR leaders talking about AI, starting to get curious. I've definitely been following and doing my very best to support an education specifically in HR, having been there for so long myself. And just also want to say I appreciate what you at 15Five are doing, not only today, but certainly within Thrive. I'm sure there's going to be a vibrant conversation about AI happening there. And certainly happy to turn it over to my good friend, Anthony Onesto, who I appreciate bringing me to the forefront so that we could have this conversation today.
Oh, well, thank you for handing it over. Anthony, may remind yourself who you are to our guests who have maybe seen you before.
I like the movie trailer. So I'm like, this summer, Anthony, no.
Yeah.
Here he is, the guy who knows nothing.
I tried
No,
to get
geez.
Liam Neeson to do your intro, but he wasn't available today.
He wasn't. Oh, all right. Next time. Next time. Yeah. I mean, listen, like Theresa, 1990, not too late, and started my career in startups, doing HR and building startups, and weaved through so many different careers in HR and being a leader in HR. And it all culminated into where I am today, right? VP of platform and product marketing role that I'm functioning here at 15.5. It's bringing all these HR experiences, the voice of HR into our product marketing. And my entire career has been in that, building HR teams, building companies at the same time, building systems, implementing all the various different HR systems that are out there. I was the 61st customer of Workday when, HR went into the cloud, and always been on the forefront of the technology because I was with companies that were innovative and disrupting, whether it was the internet companies or mobile or social, and now with AI. And I would say about 10, maybe a little bit more years ago, I saw an opportunity. I said, you know what? HR keeps answering the same damn questions over and over and over again. I'm like, you know what? I wonder if an AI thing can do this. And by the way, back then, super hard. There was no chat GPT. There was no GPTs. And I failed at it. I tried to create my own startup called K.AI that would answer questions. Now you can, upload your employee manual and the thing answers it within 10 seconds. But it was a nice foray into product, into developing product market fit and all sorts of things. And all of these experiences, I've been an advisor, I'm an author. I created a comic book series for girls in tech, for women in tech. So all of these things coming together into what has become the most wonderful role I've ever been in here at 15.5. So I'm really excited. And Theresa and I have crossed paths on the AI journey, on the HR journey. And I'm just honored to be here and just listen this entire time, because you're in the presence of brilliance, folks. So I'm going to, hopefully I didn't overplay that, Theresa. I really believe that, though.
Hey, let's see what I can pull out of my hat today.
We'll find out in 33 minutes now. But I love that, Theresa. I want to come back to the beginning of your journey, right? We were talking about what drew you in, but what did it really look and feel like for you when you first started to get closer to AI and start to own your own journey, not having a technical background?
Yeah, Karina, I love the way you introduced yourself with that context around how HR has increasingly over the past 20 years, if you've been in it as long as I have, increasingly had this pull towards, again, 10 years ago, it was like, we need to understand the data more, right? And so now we're becoming sort of mini data analysts. And a lot of us didn't understand, myself included, how to actually do that. I took all the classes trying to, understand how to use the tools. And I think it continued to feel really, really outside of my comfort zone, no matter how many, General Assembly classes I took. So I think for me, one of the very first thing I prompted ChatGPT ever to do was to write a haiku about corporate culture. And it was a funny little thing that was just like, oh, what can this thing do? And that really was a bit mind-blowing. It felt like Googling and having somebody go through the process of figuring out the answer. And my immediate thought was, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is like a time saver. I, at the time, had a different business. I was doing some culture consulting or trying to start that business. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to start seeing what this could do to help me do some of the work I had to do. The more I learned about how it could be used, the more I started to think back to, number one, the times when I was in HR that I spent so much, my to-do list was so freaking long from want tos and need tos. And it just kept getting piled on. And if it's felt like, I don't know, put a yes in the comments if you're in HR and you feel this way, that over the past 5 years, the labor requests have gone up exponentially, but the teams have stayed the same, from understanding everything through COVID, through everything else. Look at the chat. Exactly. It
looks like no one has experienced this, but you, Theresa.
I can understand that. I'm a unique and special flower in that way. So the second thing it sort of helped me realize was, beyond sort of the answers, the efficiency, was this access to be able to better understand that data that I was supposed to be deeply understanding. Small sidebar, quick story. in 2019, I went through my most recent of many throughout my career of HRIS adoption and reimplementations, and we're picking a new system. And I think the thing that came to me when I first learned AI was I was so excited by all of the different tools and all of the different bells and whistles they had, and the automation, we'll call that, or workflows. I avoided it, because once you get that implementation and you are starting to do the things that you always have to do, the needs, it's like, not only does that sparkly object feel scary, but I don't know how to leverage it. Those early days of AI was the first time I thought, there are ways that I can get these things done, and I don't have to understand how the sausage is made. As long as I can validate the information, as long as I can go back and feel like I can trust it, there's some real change management that's going to happen here. And that was sort of my early 2023 mindset. And then just very quickly, the other thing that I realized is, as I started going out, there were a few of us, Anthony's one of them, Amanda Halley is another one of them, but a few of us that were sort of in this conversation happening on LinkedIn, but it was a very small pod of like, hey, have you been using this? Have you tried this? And in 2023, I was getting crickets. And I thought HR leaders are going to be left nodding and smiling while ops and IT and finance make decisions about AI that are going to affect the people teams. And I have to do something to get them engaged myself. It just felt like a deeply rooted mission to make.
Yeah, it was kind of like your own cultural charge for the HR world. Like, I'm sure as much as what you were doing for other businesses, you were like, wait a minute, I can't leave my people behind.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel. Absolutely.
I love it. Anthony, tell me a little bit about how it felt for you, because you've often described yourself as a lifelong learner, someone who often has this sense of curiosity, got to know, got to take more. How did you leverage that to your benefit to really be an early adopter?
I think it's the opportunity to go through so many of these transformations. Like, if you think about coming into the workforce in the late 90s, the internet, right? That was a major force. And Theresa's, has a great point in terms of the technical capabilities. And I think that was one of the largest results in the poll that we saw, was people being fearful of being technically proficient in these things. Like, no one understood the internet. Like, no one who really took advantage of the internet were deep, really sort of understanding the TCP protocols and how that all worked. And no, it was the opportunistic people that saw that this was going to be the next thing. And then add on mobile right after that. So I was part of the internet, I was part of the mobile, then I was part of social. So it's me looking at these things and going, okay, what is coming next? And to be very honest and transparent, and it's a bit of, I guess, a splash of narcissism to a degree, I didn't want to become irrelevant, right? So as these things come onto the scene, I wanted to be on the forefront of these things. I wanted to embrace these things. And so whether it was the internet or mobile or social media, and then of course TikTok and these other elements, it's always going, okay, what is happening? And I'm grateful because I have 3 kids. And so I'm always looking over their shoulders and going, what are you folks doing? So I forget the name of TikTok before it was TikTok, but they were all on that thing. I forget what it was called, Musically or something to that degree. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. What are you doing there? So always trying like this one level of curiosity, but also this other narcissistic thing that I have, which is I want to be relevant. Like, I want to consistently not be in the fold of folks that aren't looking at these things. So that's why I'm an early adopter. Again, see above what I talked about my introduction, 61st customer of Workday, because when I went to the IT folks, we had a global organization. I said, hey, I need an HR system. They're like, I'm not supporting that. I'm like, great, what other choice do I have? And then this company comes in and says, hey, you don't need your IT people because we're going to throw this on the cloud. And everyone was like, what the hell is the cloud? So I'm like, oh, let me find what is that all about, right? So it's that opportunity to continuously push. And then when AI came on the scene, and this is, AI is new. ChatGPT brought AI to the front of stage, but it was mostly back of stage, behind the curtain kind of thing. But I saw the opportunity, like everyone on this call, like everyone talking today, I saw this opportunity to be like, hey, this thing is going to be now the next wave. How do I not be irrelevant in that next?
Yeah.
And the curiosity piece also is a key factor.
With so many people out there feeling this way that I need to know, I shouldn't have to caveat this, and I don't mean to, but using the word that you're feeling narcissistic, wanting to be relevant, don't anybody here feel like that's a narcissistic feeling. It's not. It is important to our survival as professionals, but it's a judgment word that I think can be perceived harsh. And I know Anthony doesn't perceive it that way about himself, but that doesn't mean that everybody, if you feel like you want to be relevant, you want to understand, needs to have this feeling about themselves, because it's all of us want to figure out how we are going to remain relevant in what is a very, very unknown next 5 to 10 years of the world of work.
And I think that really comes back to even some of what you were saying earlier, Theresa, around getting comfortable with AI, because like you didn't have to understand how the sausage was made, right? Which is a thing I think a lot of HR leaders, we go in of like, I have to know all the details. I have to come prepared with every single thing before I know this end outcome. And I think sometimes we do that because that is how we find our relevance. That's how we find this is the value I'm presenting to an org. And to what you were saying, Anthony, like it is okay to want to be relevant. Like sometimes I think it's okay to tap into whether it's your own narcissism, like your vanity, whatever, to feel that way, because that's what's going to push you ahead. And I'm curious, Theresa, how you found with the HR leaders you've worked with this feeling of confidence. How has confidence or a lack of confidence been a blocker for people? And how do you help them navigate that so they can really connect with AI, or at least connect with that curiosity?
You know, one of the biggest challenges I think are out there, and part of the reason why I've made such a focus on my business and what I do, whether it's through, authoring a book, or I also teach at university. I really want to help shape this young talent around what does the future of work look like and how can they help shape it. I think where HR leaders have sat in my interaction with them has been starting off with a healthy media inspired skepticism. So early days, 2022, 2023, even last year, we were still hearing these so many, and we still today do, but some conversations that almost made people lean into that insecurity, into that fear, which really frustrated me from the get. Number one, I think we can't support our organizations if we don't understand what our people are using and how they're using it. And believe me, people have been using AI, ChatGPT, all these generative tools since 22. So I think the first recognition of that anxiety is something that I address right at the beginning of any engagement, workshop, conversation that I have with teams. What is our familiarity? And I always joke, even today, I have people that come to my workshops and have never used AI before. I have whole teams I was literally just in the Midwest 2 weeks ago. The whole team really had not used it at all. And I think there is a real importance to acknowledge where people, if they are using it and if they're not, giving the space to say, talk to me a little bit about why that is. And do you think your employees are using it? Then, and this probably sounds a bit egotistical of me, but, I really do stay where I've been trained. I love working with HR people. I'm not like hey, I'll train your whole organization. Although if you really need it, I will. My joy is in supporting HR leaders. The way that my sessions run are highly focused on practical working, like hands-on, get your hands in the tools, like let's open up browsers and let's start to explore. And I think not many, hour-long, 2-hour-long sessions are doing that. And that creates this idea of you can get a high from the session. All of us have been to conferences where it's exciting and high energy. I'm definitely a high energy person. But my commitment is I want you to leave with 3 things that you feel like you can do. Like, what are those 3 things? And so as soon as you see that switch click, when somebody starts thinking about like, oh, wait, I could use this for that, and let me get in there and try it once. And there's a curiosity that's built around not just understanding how other teams use it. I get a lot of that question a lot. Like, we want to know how other AI HR teams are using it. My focus is, what things do you need done? It doesn't matter what 1,000 other HR teams are doing. Their dynamics are completely different, but let's figure out what your things are. And I think once you see that click from fear, uncertainty, insecurity, lack of confidence, that's a lot of what I'm trying to help build them up to. Because if I can't get you in a place that you can sit in your executive team meeting and prompt a question about AI, how should we, what could we, here's what I need, and stop thinking about it in terms of asking permission and start directing what you need, that is going to be a failure on my part.
Employee engagement is the ultimate driver of your organization's performance. So it's one thing to measure it, but 15.5's performance management platform helps you maximize engagement with easy, customized surveys that transform your data into guided actions with clear results. Learn more at 15.5.com or click the link in the show notes.
Coming back to this notion of curiosity, you're teaching HR leaders essentially how to fish for themselves, right? Of like, I can give you some of these examples, but really the skill you're going to walk away with is you're now going to know how to ask the question, think about, like, how would I use AI for this? Like, how would I lean into it? In some ways can be just as valuable as like the practical tools. Would love to just hear some examples of how you see HR leaders using AI in meaningful ways. Like outside maybe some of just like the kind of simple tasks, like getting rid of those repetitive things. What's the big impact that some folks are doing right now?
For me, I think the opportunity here is, at least in the latest version of all these tools, is the ability to change certain conversations. So in ChatGPT, you can do this. In Gemini, you can do this, where you're actually creating, and this is an advanced, well, I would, Theresa, correct me, maybe it's a 201 AI kind of thing, but I obsess over gems in Gemini or custom GPTs, where I am pulling together all this different content. And I'll give you an example. So I'm in a new role in a very new career in product marketing. And so I use Gemini a lot for like, hey, like I want to distill this down to how to market into the HR tech persona. And I use a gem called Product Marketer. And it's a gem I created. And if it's basically a gem is, it's a source of materials that then the AI uses those source of materials to create an output. It also will use external sources in the internet, but it'll use that source of materials to generate what you're looking for. And it has helped me in a way get to first draft of things, because I am not a product marketer. There are plenty of product marketers out there. There's really smart folks out there. There's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of podcasts. So for me, this is an advanced version of something that's very, very tactical that people can do today with a couple of clicks, couple of source uploads, and you get to this thing called a gem or a custom GPT that is then reusable. So then you can go back in, you have a new thing. And we have so many, Karina knows this, we have so many awesome releases coming out in 15.5, a little advertisement, where I have to go and then go, okay, here's what we're releasing. Like, how do I talk to this plainly? And I was an HR person, but it's not always that obvious. How do I talk to this plainly to the HR persona, to the HR leader, to the managers, whomever we're trying to say, hey, this is a really good feature for you. So that's a great example of what I would say is a more advanced way of utilizing AI, and something that's been critical for me. And that saved me time, because Theresa talked about this too. There's two elements of AI I see that is the output. One is time saving, right? So this thing that used to take you an hour or 2 hours takes you now 15 minutes, but also what I call alpha, the ability to do something even better. So like with AI, Anthony and AI may be better than a product manager without AI, right? Like it multiplies the capabilities that maybe you don't necessarily have, or the knowledge you have. So anyway, it's that sort of efficiency piece, but also the alpha.
One of the things that's important to realize is this, that you could have people that, aside from the people that have never tried it, you could have people that use it frequently, daily, and feel like they are at a level 2 of their understanding. And you could have people that use it every day and could think that they're at a 5. And part of the reason for that dynamic is, it's a question I ask at a lot of my workshops, is do you think you're at a 5 or a 1 or a 2 based on your knowledge? And part of the reason I share that is because I think it's really important to know that most people today, I believe, are still at the like 10% functional usage of what AI can do. We're thinking about the output of a key performance indicator most times, like this is one output, as opposed to thinking about process in full. So instead of thinking about, I need a job description for this particular job, and we've done all this work outside of it, like comp analysis, interviewing teams and hiring managers and things like that, building out the interview questions, building out the interview schedule, building out all this stuff. If we start to think about compressing the conversation with our generative AI tools, we can get a much more robust plan of action and strategy that then you could take and create a custom GPT for, so that every time you have a new role, you have the process in place using that custom tool to do the analysis, to put together the comp polls, to do a lot of that work, and stop thinking about things in terms of the tactical output of that process, and start thinking about the process in whole. And that is something that I focus on a lot in my workshops. I think the use of, if you're a Gmail company and you're not deeply rooting yourself in utilizing Notebook LM, that's a huge miss. There's so many functional, amazing uses for a tool like that. If I were sitting in a CHR role again today, the tools that I would have, it would be obviously our organization is probably going to have some tool of choice, whether it's Microsoft or Gmail or whatever. Outside of that, I would most certainly have my HR team have access to Notebook LM. I would have them have access to ChatGPT. So I think that there are these ways to think about the tools that transcend tactical. And if we start to elevate the art of the possible, which is what I call it, and I think workshops help to do that, those are the responses that really give me fuel, are like I didn't know it could do that. Oh, I had no idea that Claude could make interactive components in this really amazing way. I had no idea that I could build podcasts and videos and flashcards from Notebook LM. And there's just all this really great insight there.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I don't even know where to begin, what to do. And sometimes I just wonder, I'm like, well, why don't you just ask a GPT? I mean, I actually very practically did that recently. We had a big blocker in the people team of just creating playbooks that we needed from scratch that had never been done. And I was just like, it was a Friday afternoon. And I was like, this is what I need to have done. I don't know I don't know how to do it. I don't know a better way to do it. Give me an idea. Tell me what you can do. And the GPT was like, great, here's the plan. You're going to go and record these sessions. You're going to give me the transcripts. I'm going to do this. And I was like, oh, well, what if I need to edit it? It's like, well, you're just going to hand me the raw notes and I'll do it for you. Do you want it in a doc or do you want it in a copy paste? And I was like, oh, you're asking me the questions. I was like, this is great. Sometimes just having getting into that conversation, like you were saying, Anthony, stop treating it like I'm going to give you a thing for just a tactical output, but having that kind of thought idea partnership of, okay, tell me what you can do. Here are the 4 biggest things on my plate this week I'm overwhelmed with. How are you going to make one of these faster?
I love that. I think what it starts to do is, I did a Disrupt HR presentation once about kicking rocks out of our shoes and how HR leaders, more than anybody else I've ever worked with, are really good at hiding the rock, that we're walking on boulders that are causing us pain, but we hide it because we're supposed to be the example for the company, right? And I think one of the things that we suffer through much more than future generations won't do this because they won't feel they have to, is we have to start it. We have to start from the blank page. It has to be our Genesis information. If we move from, using the parity principle, if everybody knows that's the 80-20 rule, right now, I think, and this is where I was heading with the tactical versus strategic. Right now, I feel like people are using AI for the 20%, when maybe they could use AI for the 80%. And then we do that 20% where our brains are really working, optimizing for our knowledge, the things that the full scope of context that we have that an AI can never have, those kind of things that are just going to create massive time savings, insights gathering, the alpha that Anthony talked about that I'm going to steal, by the way.
Those things are huge. And sometimes it is too, I feel like even HR leaders can get stuck really, again, just thinking about the question they ask, well, what are all the things I want AI to do or I could do? And that's a very overwhelming question. It's like looking out into a field and being like, where is the needle? I don't know. There's a lot in there. But if you flip it and it's like, okay, what are the things I am being paid to do that are impactful for the company? What's the best use of my human skill? The strategy of our team, how we're going to navigate this upcoming change. I definitely need to do that. I want to be in there. Now, here's that to your point, the 80% of the things that are just eating up my time and what can we really do to make those things more efficient and move it off so I'm getting to focus on what matters most. There's an important question around efficiencies and headcount when it comes to AI, right? I think there is a real fear that the more AI is introduced into our work or our workforce, that means we're actually going to ultimately end up with turnover or reduced roles and reduced headcount. How do you both approach that and think about it in a way that is strategic and just honest?
I'm going to go New York here. Listen, at the end of the day, there was a great article a friend of mine posted on LinkedIn called Capitalism Doesn't Care. And it was a eureka moment for me because most of my career I've been trying to push water up a hill, trying to convince folks about people and the connection of people to business. And at the end of the day, CEOs, boards of directors, this is why I do a CEO Whisper series with Troop HR, is to get to the point that, listen, it's not for the good of people. It's for the good of the company. It just is. Companies are going to look at AI, and they already have, and they've made missteps, but they're going to look at it as an efficiency play first, right? Everybody, and money is not cheap anymore. So now when you're a company, whether you're in a tech company or any industry, it's about revenue and profitability. And to get to profitability, you have to do more with less. And I know we hate that phrase. So hopefully we can get rid of that phrase at some point, but it's the reality of what we're dealing with today. And most boards, most investors care about those elements. So there's going to be a piece of AI that's going to take jobs. Now, see above Klarna went 1 degree too far or 10 degrees too far and said, we're going to eliminate everyone. And now they're hiring people back, right? So there's going to be these shifts. You could be a Luddite or whatever it is. Like there's going to be job creation, job destruction. There's going to be a mess of things. And this is why I continue to believe the HR leaders need to be the captains of this transformation. Because it's got to be both a human and a profitability perspective. Because you see Klarna, I bet you, and I don't know who their HR person is, but I bet that decision was made at a board or maybe a different level, and not bringing in the HR person to go, hey, we actually can't eliminate all these roles. So there's going to be that piece of it. And if we try to hide that or not talk about it, I think we're doing a disservice. Then the question is, okay, what is left? And that's where I think we need to be thinking. What is left? What is the human element that is comparable, where we can get that alpha? Like efficiency is going to be the first piece, and that's a reality. The next piece is like, how do I make everybody better than what they were? And that's the equation.
Right.
It's humans and machines are the equation.
2 things I wanted to share, B. I know we're running out of time. The first one is this, going way back to the question of how can HR leaders that are looking for a way to start using it, that are confused, might help. There's a wonderful company. It's a website, AI HR. They're fantastic. They have a framework for the 12 facets of HR. If you take each of those facets 1 per week for the next 12 weeks, work with AI to figure out how AI can support you in each of those 12 facets, you're going to be well ahead of the curve on your learning. It's 12 weeks, take an hour a week or an hour and a half a week, break it up, do it. In terms of this experience of the challenge of efficiencies and hiring and what that all looks like, one thing that we all in HR need to understand is that our world of work, I believe, is going to look very dynamically different. If we start to think about how people are going to be working more project-based, maybe if you knew that tomorrow or in 6 months, your organization was going to be 50% W-2 and 50% 1099 based on project work, how would you be talking about your functional areas today? What are the roles that, like, we are in the beginning of the runway on this, everyone. And this is our time to map it the way we want, as opposed to deal with the fallout when other people are leading the process. And we're the ones who are going to be stuck in that process if we're not involved.
For sure. Well, and I think the biggest thing to take away from all of that is just, even throughout this whole conversation, that this combination of curiosity and confidence is something all HR leaders really need to lean in with, right? Like, we can't approach any of this with fear or hiding the reality of what HR is or what it might do to our workforce, right? Like, we have to be able to work within the constraints we have. And both of you have given tons of incredible tips. So appreciate you being a part of this conversation. We're going to be sharing Theresa's link, Anthony's link, my link to LinkedIn. You can learn more about the courses that Theresa offers. If you have any questions for any of the panelists here today, please reach out to them. These are like real people who love connecting with the community one-on-one. So don't feel like the conversation has to end here. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. Engaged employees are your most valuable asset. They're innovative, loyal, and committed to achieving exceptional results. By fostering a culture of engagement, you'll unleash their full potential and create a competitive advantage that sets your organization apart. But how do you do it? Check out 15Five's Employee Engagement Playbook linked in the show notes. It explores the undeniable benefits of employee engagement and dives deep into how to measure it. I promise you'll learn actionable strategies to transform engagement insights into measurable outcomes.